Sometimes, a film doesn't just tell a story, it colors your memory of the world. Amelie is one of those rare films. You don't simply watch it, you feel it, like a breeze brushing past your cheek on a summer afternoon. From the first frame, you're enveloped in this saturated, handcrafted Paris. Reds so warm they feel like they could bleed from the screen, greens that somehow make you nostalgic for places you've never been. The production design isn't just pretty decoration. It's a declaration of intent. That this world will be heightened, precise, a little magical, and yet somehow more honest than reality itself. Every corner of Amelie's apartment, every street in Montmartre, is alive with detail, little objects, hidden notes, textures that whisper stories of people who have been here long before. The cinematography is so subtle you might not notice at first how it guides your eye, how it gently encourages you to see the world the way Amelie sees it. There's a softness to the way the camera moves, a curiosity that makes you want to lean closer. But what really makes the film feel so singular is its writing. The dialogue has this understated wit, this tincture of dark comedy. It's funny in a way that feels abrupt and natural, like eavesdropping on someone's private thoughts. The narrator tells us everything, sometimes too much, but that's the point. It's a story about noticing, about paying attention to things nobody else bothers to see. And then there's the romance. The way Amelie falls in love with Nino Quincampoix isn't like the grand declarations you find in most movies. It's hesitant, almost shy. Two people orbiting each other, connected by scraps of photographs and chance encounters. There's something so tender in their avoidance. So much of the film's tension comes from wondering, will she ever step out of her own carefully constructed world to meet him in the real one? But to understand why this matters, to understand why it feels so resonant, you have to look a little deeper past the beautiful surfaces and the quirky humor. You have to see Amelie as a character who is, at her core, profoundly alone. This is where the film becomes philosophical. Because what is loneliness, if not a kind of exile from your own life? Amelie is brilliant at noticing the lives of others. She catalogs their routines, anticipates their needs, engineers small moments of joy. But she's terrified of her own vulnerability. She's content to watch rather than participate, to imagine rather than to risk. There's a scene, one of the most striking in the film, where she sits on her couch and watches television, and the broadcast begins to narrate her own imagined death. She sees herself old, unfulfilled, her life reduced to a melancholy footnote. She imagines that no one will have really known her, that her story will have ended before it ever truly began. And when you watch that moment, you can almost feel something catch in your throat. Because even in this bright, whimsical world, the fear of incompleteness is very real. It's a reminder that you can fill your days with gentle distractions and still go to sleep each night feeling like a ghost in your own story. This is where the film touches on something almost existential. We are all, to some degree, inventing ourselves. We are all deciding whether to remain hidden or to risk stepping forward. Amelie's interventions in other people's lives, her secret missions, her little conspiracies, are her way of feeling connected without exposing herself. They're acts of kindness, yes, but they're also a shield. Because if she's busy improving everyone else's life, she doesn't have to confront her own longing. There's a philosophical question here. Is it enough to be the observer? To be the orchestrator of happiness for others while never claiming any for yourself? Kant might say that Amelie risks treating people as means to an end, her end, which is to feel significant without having to engage directly. But the film doesn't judge her harshly. Instead, it suggests that the desire to help can be both beautiful and incomplete. That eventually, you have to do the harder thing. Step out from behind your carefully curated life and admit that you want love too. When she finally reaches out to Nino, it feels less like a romantic gesture and more like a philosophical decision. A decision to be seen, to be known, to be unfinished and still worthy of connection. In this way, Amelie is also about subjective reality. The film never pretends to show the world as it objectively is. Everything is filtered through her imagination. The way she anthropomorphizes her goldfish, the way she believes in cosmic signs, the way she transforms ordinary objects into talismans of meaning. It's a reminder that reality is never neutral. We each build a version of the world out of memories, impressions, and half-remembered dreams. That's why the smallest things, a childhood tin of treasures, a stranger's old photographs, can feel so significant. There's a line of thinking you find in phenomenology, the philosophy of lived experience, that says, we never just perceive objects, we perceive meanings. And Amelie is practically a manifesto for that idea. It asks us to pay attention to the textures of our own lives, to the tiny rituals that make existence feel bearable. Even the romance with Nino is less about grand passion and more about finally letting someone into her private world. It's about saying, here is my collection of oddities. Here are my fears. Here is the way I see the world. Will you come sit with me in it? When I watch Amelie, I'm struck by how delicately it balances sweetness with melancholy. It's not a film that denies sadness or loneliness. It simply suggests that life can be both lonely and luminous, often in the same breath. It proposes a very gentle philosophy, that happiness is not something waiting to be discovered. It's something you create through attention, curiosity, and the courage to take part in your own story. In the end, Amelie doesn't need to transform Paris or to rescue everyone she meets. She just needs to show up for herself, to choose connection over safety, love over observation. And maybe that's the most radical act of all. If you've never seen Amelie, or if it's been a while, watch it again. Not just for the colors and the music, though those alone are worth it. Watch it because it's a reminder that even the quietest life can be a work of art, and that sometimes the only thing standing between you and the fullness of your own story is the decision to say yes.